Hello everyone, welcome to my little paintbrush. Today we get to paint the Grinch's bestest pal, Max. Alright, here is our painting. Super cute. He's got that mischievous look on his face, which we get to put in. It's going to be a good time. Maybe you have our paint kit. If you do, fantastic. You'll have all the supplies you need. If not, you can print off a pattern and transfer the image yourself. But we do have the Grinch as well, and they make a super cute side-by-side painting. So check that out when you have a second. All right, let's dive right in. I am going to turn my camera around so you can see my surface. And here it is. We've got the Grinch, or not the Grinch, we've got Max traced out, ready to go. It's really important, especially when you're painting characters, to have that image because they're super hard to freehand. All right, here are the brushes I'm going to use tonight. I've got two sizes of flats. I've got a large 3/4 inch flat, which is one of my favorite brushes to use. And then I have a smaller number 12 flat brush. I also have a detail brush. Now, this flat is optional, so don't stress out if you don't have it. These two will get you through this painting, no problem at all, okay? We are going to dive in with our background first. Make sure you have a jar or two or a cup or two of water handy. You'll want to keep one clean throughout the painting so that you can dilute your paint as you go. My background is a fun turquoise color, so I'm going to get a big scoop of white, pull it over to my turquoise, and start to mix that until I get the color I want. And notice I'm pulling from the turquoise into the white and not the other way around because I need less turquoise than I do white. The reason I chose turquoise for the background is because our Grinch painting has a turquoise background and I wanted these to be a fun side-by-side. If you have our paint kit, you have the gold, the brown, and the turquoise, so you can switch it up any way you want. Once you have the color ready to go, you can fill in your background, which of course is the area surrounding Max here. And I like to go kind of quickly as I'm far away from my subject, and then I can slow down when I get right up close. But in the meantime, I can kind of go pretty quick. Now, if you are painting on a canvas, you will have edges to wrap, and we strongly encourage you to do that so that you have a nice completed painting at the end that's ready to hang up, to be displayed and appreciated by everybody. And when I say wrap your edges, I'm talking about the sides of your canvas. I am painting on a mixed media paper, therefore I don't have any edges to wrap. But if I was painting on a canvas, I would definitely be sure to do that. Now I'm just adding some water to my paint. That's really important. We're using acrylic paint and it has to have water. This is a big mistake that new artists make. They don't realize their paint right out of the bottle needs water. So make sure you're diluting your paint, and that's one reason why we encourage you to have 2 cups or 2 jars of water so that you have one clean that you can use to dilute your paint with. Now, for our younger artists, this can be confusing, and so we typically don't talk about that, or we just want to focus on cleaning our brush and not confuse them with multiple cups or jars. But the older you are, the more you can understand and appreciate that clean water will keep your paint colors nice and bright, and dirty water might dim those colors a little bit. All right, so I'm coming around here using the toe of my brush to get in the smaller areas. When you get up close, press your bristles so they fan out. And when you do that, what will happen is the brush will push your paint towards the edge, and then you'll have that nice, steady hand in order to get a nice clean edge. Now you can see I have little sections where I got turquoise into Max. Now, your reaction if you do this might be to panic. The truth is, your next steps will likely cover up those mistakes. So unless you are getting a ton of paint into your subject, don't worry about it, okay? Just keep on painting and it will all come together. Another rule of thumb is your subject darker or lighter than your background? So I would be more careful around the antler that cute Max has tied to his head because it's going to be a lighter color. Max's ears will be dark, so this little part right here where I went into his ear, not a huge deal. After you have your background in and you're happy with the coverage, maybe you want to do another layer. If that's the case, pause this video and paint in another layer. But if you're happy with it, grab that big brush that's filled with your background color and dip a corner of that brush in white paint. And what we're going to do is just pretty much lighten the areas around Max. Give him a bit of a halo, so to speak. And this is fun to do because it will draw the viewer to Max, but it will also create a less flat looking background. This is one of those steps that you are more than happy to skip if you're not into it, or you don't like how it looks, you don't understand the concept, you'd rather have that nice flat clean background. That's fine as well. I have many paintings in which I did not do this, and it's totally fine. Do what you feel is best. You're the one that gets to look at your painting and admire it. So stick with your own gut feelings and impressions on how you want that painting to look. So I just keep adding bits of white to the corner of my brush, and I go around Max. And you can even come and blend it in more where you need to. It's one reason why you do it when your background is wet, so that you have that ability to blend. It's cute. Antler, he's tied to the top of his head, of course, because he needs to look like a reindeer. We'll go around that as well. And you can be as close to Max as you want with this white, or you can kind of even span out further. The beauty is every painting will look different, and we love that, right? All right, let's give our brush a nice wash. Really rinse that out. Always clean your brushes. And I think I will switch now to my smaller flat, but I still want to make sure that brush is clean. All right, let's get our smaller brush. I've dipped it in water so it's nice and wet, ready for my paint. And let's go ahead and make the color of Max. Max is going to be mostly this gold, but I'm going to pull in a little bit of brown. Now, brown is one of those colors that just needs layers, okay? So to help with that, I'm going to come in with a generous scoop of white. And white will offset a little bit of that need. Won't completely take it away, but it will kind of help a little bit. Remember, your paint will dry darker on your surface than what it looks like on your plate. So you might be thinking, wow, that is really light. You'll be surprised though, once it hits your canvas or your paper or your wood, whatever surface you're painting on, how dark it is, okay? So once you have a nice color, and again, that white's going to help you, we're going to fill in cute little Macs. Now I'm going to obviously have to cover up these lines, but because we did these in this nice graphite pencil, we're going to be able to see those lines still. And so that's super helpful. So our entire dog here is going to be outlined. And I tell you this because you are going to want to create these perfectly clean edges where where Max meets the background. And you just don't need to worry about that because we're going to outline those. So just get as close as you can and then try and stay calm until we get to our outlining. So of course, half of Max is off of our canvas, so we want to wrap around the bottom there as well. All right, just gonna fill this in, and he is going to need another layer of paint. We talked about that too, and that's fine. So just get this first one on. Don't worry too much about brush strokes, but pay close attention to the clumps. You want to smooth out your surface as best you can. This will help that paint dry faster so that you can be ready sooner for that second layer. But also you want a smooth surface, right? So our eyeballs are white, so we are going to paint around that as best we can. If we get paint in there, we can obviously clean it up with some white, but we're going to try. We're going to try and stay out if we can. I just love the expression on Max's face. It's so much fun. Eyelids are the same color, so we can paint right over that. So you might be feeling a little anxious about painting over these lines that you have to follow. Especially when we're doing 2 layers. That can get kind of scary because he's got a specific expression on his face and we most likely want to keep that expression. So in the event that you completely panic, what you can do is after this first layer dries, get a pencil and go over those lines again. You can even do it with a marker. Go over them before you do your second layer just to ensure that you keep those lines. But if you can even see them just a little, you're going to be able to get through it just fine. All right, so that first layer is in. We're going to let it dry. I'm going to wash my brush out. And we are going to jump to the color of the ears. We've got to make a darker brown. So We're actually going to use the tiniest bit of black and move it to our brown. And please just start with a little bit of black because it goes dark. Look at that. You can see that change happens pretty quick. You can always add more black, but you can't take it away once it's in there. So start with a little bit. Now, if you want to add just the tiniest bit of white, it always helps with coverage, but make sure you don't lighten it too much. Make sure you don't take away from that dark, rich color. Okay, so our ears are going to be outlined as well. So again, we don't need to panic about perfect edges. We're just doing our best. And this is why I pointed out, if you get, or if you got some of your background color in your ears, it is okay because look how dark this is. And it just covers it right up. That is the beauty of having a step up with dark paint. It just quickly cleans up. Now, of course, I am using my number 12 flat brush. If that is too big for you, you can switch to your detail brush for some of the smaller sections. But contrary to what we all think, a smaller brush is a little more difficult to paint with and to control. I definitely feel like I can control a flat brush much better than a detail. So depending on your surface and how dark your paint is and how thick your layer is, you might need another layer in the ears, you might not. For me, it's looking like I don't. So in that case, if you need more, which you might sometimes, the canvases need a little more paint. If you do, you can of course let these ears dry, and when they're dry, pause the video and put in another layer. Because we're mixing our paint as well, we all probably have a slightly different shade. So that plays a part as well. So your ears might be lighter and therefore not need another layer. Maybe you put more white in it. Maybe they're darker. Maybe they're more on the black side. And so your coverage is good. It just depends. Okay. And of course, at any time during this tutorial, you can pause. These are pretty quick. We keep a pretty quick pace, so you might feel a little overwhelmed by that and need to pause, and that's fine. You have all day to do this painting, and it's always better if we're tired to walk away and come back to it as well. So if you're feeling that, you could do that as well. So Max is dry, so I'm going to jump right into my second layer. I just washed my brush from that darker brown. I'm going to go in. Now you can see, or maybe you can't with the reflection of light, but I can still see my lines, okay? So I'm going to go ahead with the second layer without any concern, but again, depending on your circumstance, you can take a minute to darken those lines with the pencil before you do another layer. Second layers always go on much quicker and much smoother than the first. You've already done the hard part. And that's nice, right? Just goes right in. You are going to be tempted, of course, to have these nice clean lines. If you're at all like me, it's really hard for me to ignore something that I don't feel like is complete. But just remember, we will be outlining this, and then all of that stress about clean edges will go away. Again, we're trying to stay out of the white portion of the eyes if possible. Now, there is a chance that you're going to throw a second layer on this and want a third. Again, we are mixing paint, and so there's always a chance that you're going to want more for the shade that you got. And that's what's so great about painting at home, painting with our paint kits. You're not limited to the time at the studio. You can kind of add whatever time you need to your painting. So if that's the case, add your second layer. But if you're happy with it, go ahead and take your brush that's got Max's cute color on it and dip the corner in that original brown color that we've been working with. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to place a shadow around Max here. Trying our very best to remember that outline, right? Which obviously I have to remind myself of too, because I often want to just clean my edges immediately, and I don't need to. I don't need to do that. Everything will get a nice finished look. So if you have a moment like this where your brown got too thick, just come back with that original color and you can thin it out. There's always a solution, I feel like. You can always fix it. So don't panic. I love these cheeks here. So fun. If you are struggling with this concept a little bit, and maybe you're not getting a result that you're happy with, a few tips that I can give you is don't forget that you're using all your bristles. So one thing that I've seen a lot is people will, as soon as I say dip the corner of your brush, they assume that means only paint with the corner of your brush. And that's not the case. with this. Now right here we're going to come forward because this is his chest, and that straight line is a leg in the back. Anyway, use all your bristles. You're not just using that corner, you're using all your bristles. That's what's helping it give kind of an ombre look and not a flat line look. So try to think about that and use all those bristles. The other thing is just practice. And remember pressure, because the pressure of our brush really indicates a lot of the success that we have at the canvas, at the easel. All right, so you can tell I came in, you can see with some of these lines here and completed them. I just want that to have a little shadow. We will also be outlining it. And then of course we're going to have a little bit of a chin right here. So I'm going to kind of indicate that, and then we'll come back to it and put a more defined line on it. But there we go. There's our cute little Max. Looking good. All right, let's put a layer of paint in our antler. So we're going to do a really light gold. This gold is just going to carry us through this whole painting. I've got some white, and I'm just going to add touches of the gold to it. I just kind of want almost an off-white color. I don't want it super dark. Okay, just a little off-white. And then we'll fill it in. You can see it's just barely different than the color of our surface, but different enough. And we're going to fill it in here. And this is light enough that we don't need multiple layers, which is so funny, isn't it, that the lighter colors don't need as many layers. Once I fill that in, I am going to do the same kind of technique that I did on Max, using the corner of my brush into my gold color, and then using that corner to go around my antlers, or antler. I guess we just have one. It's going to be a very light, in some places maybe not even noticeable, but a nice touch to add to our painting. Again, remember to use all your bristles as you paint, not just the corner with the paint on it. And remember, you do not have to stress about clean edges. Try and constantly remind yourself of that. So sometimes the lighter colors, we have a hard time seeing that dark edge come through. If you're having a difficult time with that, load less of the antler color on your brush and more of the dark edge. And sometimes it's even good to let it dry a little bit before you add it. Okay. We've got our basics in. Now we get to do our details. So it's time for the lines. And this is fun because we'll get to see Max come to life. It's also difficult because we're doing skinny lines. So what I want you to do is get your detail brush, dip it in water, and then grab that water and mix it into your black paint. And do this 3 to 5 times until that black paint is thinned out, not watery, but just thinned out. This will make all the difference when it comes to your outlines, I promise. You will be amazed. Okay. So I've got my black paint ready, and I'm going to work from the top of my canvas to the bottom. That way, if I need to rest my palm, I'm not resting it in wet paint, especially wet lines. All right, so let's start at the top of our antler, and we are in fact outlining the entire thing. Now, if I was at home at my easel painting this, I would very quickly be shifting Max around. He would be upside down, he would be on his side, he might be on my lap for some lines. Basically, what I'm saying is you don't have to stay in this upright position the whole time. In fact, you shouldn't, because you're probably going to have terrible posture doing it and then hurt yourself. But because I've got all this equipment around me recording, I'm not moving my canvas. You can do that. It's very normal and acceptable to do so. Remember that the thickness of your lines is all about the pressure you are putting on your brush. So your thick lines will happen when you press down hard on your brush. The thinner lines will happen when you pull away a little bit. I'm going to add a line right here indicating the bottom of our cute little antler. And then I'm going to put Max's forehead in. And once the forehead is in, I can create that cute little bow that is surprisingly holding this on his head. And yes, we are just freehanding this, and you can do it. Give it a try. Bows, after a while, can become so fun to do. Okay, so we're just going to continue, and as we continue, Max is going to come to life, and it's going to be amazing. My outlining will be quicker than yours based on just experience, and I've painted this before, so don't feel like you have to keep up with me. And again, I will remind you again that you can, of course, pause this video. Continuing with our lines, working down our canvas. The longer you can go with a line, the better. And the faster you can go, the better, because when we slow down, we tend to get shaky. And the length of time we can go with a line before our stroke breaks is really determined upon that paint consistency. So if our paint is really thick, we're not going to get very far before we need more. Okay, before I go down to the rest of the body, I want to finish the face so that I can rest my palm. So let's go in these cute eyebrows here. and get this expression going, which is so fun. Now, I made the decision when creating this piece not to outline the white portion of the eye because that complicates things and it doesn't need it. But we are going to do a cute little lash as we go through the eyelids here. And we are going to fill in the black portion of the eye. Now, if you need to clean up in the white area, you can certainly do that. And you will have all the time to do that. You can do it with a detail brush. White is pretty strong and can usually cover things up pretty well. And you can see Max just coming to life. We have a few wrinkles in the forehead that are not penciled in for you that you can kind of add. Fun little wrinkles. And we'll keep going with the nose. And this is just so fun because he just literally comes to life. Got some wrinkles above the nose as well. Do a big one and then do a couple of little ones. And this is so Dr. Seuss, right? I mean, it's incredible that his art has so much expression, and yet it's literally just lines. Which really shows you that you can create so much with just so little. We got our fun, goofy smile that we're going to add these creases to on either side. I just love it. He's so fun. And now we'll just finish outlining the bottom. And now you can see why I kept encouraging you not to worry about your clean edges, because we are doing just that. The one thing that you want to be sure of as you are painting here is not to cover up that brown shadow we worked so hard to put in. Make sure that your black lines are not covering that up. So go on the outside of those lines to really ensure that nice shadow, that addition to Max here. Again, the small little touches that really create this fun puppy. We've got one little wrinkle here on the chest that we're going to add right there. How fun is that? All right. We are going to do some quick highlights before we sign. And the first place we're going to highlight is the eye, because of course our eyes reflect light. So grab your brush. I prefer using my medium, and dip the bottom in white paint until you have kind of a drippy, we like to call it chocolate chip, coming off the bottom. And then we're just going to dot in that reflection. It's amazing to me every time I do this step what it does for the painting. It just lightens it up. All right, so now I'm going to get my brush wet with some clean water, and I'm just going to run my fingers down it, gently pressing. I don't want all of the water gone. I want my brush damp, but I don't want it drippy. Make sure your black lines are dry before you do this step so you don't have any smears. Dip the corner in white paint, and then we're going to come along and we're going to highlight Cute Max. The number one step that my little artists complain about are the highlights, and I try to help them understand how important it is. Sometimes you just have to do it and see it before you realize what a big impact it has on your painting, because it really does do a lot. That highlight got a little thick, so I just added water and thinned it out a little bit. Come do this other cheek. And some of your highlights will be stronger and more pronounced than others, and that's totally okay. Obviously a little more natural if it is, but you can see as we do this how we are brightening up this painting. It really is one of those steps that I can't handle not doing. I just feel like my painting isn't done until I have it in. Anytime your brush gets dry, just dip it in some more water and then continue going. And you don't have to do as many highlights as I do. Maybe you want to do less, maybe you want to do more. But I would encourage you to do some. But understand that you can have a whiteout situation just as much as you can have a blackout situation. So start with a little and then go from there. And there you go, you guys. You have painted Max. I hope you love it. I just love looking at this puppy. It makes me happy. Go ahead and sign your name. Grab your detail brush. Put whatever color paint you want on it from your palette. Find a good spot and sign your name. Signing our name lets everyone know we are proud of our painting. We own our painting, and you should, because you just put a lot of work into it. Hope you love your Max. If you have a chance, if you don't have the Grinch yet, go check out our Grinch tutorial and our Grinch paint kit, because they are so cute side by side, kind of giving each other the stink eye. Check it out, and we would love to see your painting. So send us pictures, tag us on social media, #MiloPaintbrush. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, give us a thumbs up. Thanks so much. I will see you next time.